Good day, everybody, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live. This is Olaf Schönfelder joining you from sunny Waldorf in Germany. Today's webinar will focus on the very first steps of an S/4HANA transformation with clarity and control, not guesswork. Today's session is called Phase Zero with Version Zero, and will explain exactly what that means. I'm pleased to joined by two people today who bring deep experiences with what the questions and challenges are companies are facing. So welcome with me, Sana Asher, SAP Advisor focused on guiding customers through RISE, grow, and clean core adoption, and Bob Cummings, CEO of LeapGreat, whose team developed FrontLoad and version 0 to automate and de-risk the earliest phase of SAP S/4HANA transformation. So Sana, thanks for spending your time today with us. Before we dive into the topic, I noticed your title on LinkedIn is Human First SAP Advisor. So share with us a little bit about you, about your background and the company integrity.
Surely enough. Thank you so very much for having me on this LinkedIn Live today. I'm excited. What Bob and I are going to talk about is truly, truly transformational. And a little bit about me. The reason I have Human First SAP Advisor is in the last 3 decades of my experience within the SAP ecosystem, one of the things that I saw missing was the human side in these large projects and in these transformation projects. Things were always focused on the money and the profit and what are we going to do. And I truly did not want to be that person. So, a year ago, I kind of took my retirement from corporate America and I said, I am going to be who I am and put the human side first. So lead with empathy, lead with kindness, lead with grace. And if you do all of those things, automatically you are going to have an amazing transformation, not just from a technology perspective, but also from a people perspective.
So thanks a lot, Sana. So when we look at customers and from my experiences at the very, very first beginning of thinking of a S/4HANA transformation, you brought in the concept of phase zero. So what are the challenges you have experienced with companies, with customers? What are the elements of unknown that you can help to address?
Absolutely. Fantastic question, Olaf. So, one of the things that I'm seeing within the SAP ecosystem, there's close to about 60% of our SAP brethren who've done nothing with S/4HANA, right? They're still kind of waiting and watching to see what's. And what I did is I put together a 12-week advisory road, okay, which talks about challenges customers face, very, very real challenges, which are what does my current custom code look like? What does my licensing look like? What are the integrations I have within my SAP, system today? What is my data strategy? All of these pieces, because they've been on ECC for a good 10, 15, 18 years, they don't even have a handle on what they currently have. So what I did is I put together an advisory offering that talks about phase zero, that covers their entire piece across custom code, license, integration, a solution review, which is the clients, to even get a handle on your current landscape. It's going to take you a few months, if not a few years. So I have the ability, with the help of tools and frameworks, to get you that information in 12 weeks. And once you have that information, you're in a better position to go to the next step and see what you need to migrate and how you want to transform. That is what phase zero does.
Wow, that sounds exciting. So you talk about landscapes, and that is the area where Bob comes into the place. But first, Bob, how did you cross paths with Sana, and what ideas and interactions brought LeapGreat and Sana together?
No, so thanks, Olaf. Yeah. So personally, thanks so much, Sana, for joining us today. We appreciate it. And also to all the people on the call. I see many, many countries, many continents there. So that's exciting. Thank you for making the time. So yeah, maybe just before I answer your question, Olaf, sometimes when if you ever ask the question, what's the most important phase of a project, right? And you have the discover phase, prepare, explore, realize, deploy, run, and so on. I actually think the most important phase is phase 0 before you even start, because you can follow the book, but if you don't stage these programs properly, you can really derail these projects. And the statistics show that many of these projects, in fact, unfortunately, if you believe the statistics, is actually more than half, actually do get derailed often. And I believe it all goes back to how you treat phase 0. Now, some people call it different, not everybody uses the word phase 0. Sometimes they'll just call it like a, prep phase or a road mapping, whatever it is. But it's what you do before you start your project, which I would say defines to a great extent whether you're going to have success in that. We've often seen that companies really struggle because they see out on the horizon, they see S/4HANA, right? And they all know they want to get there. I think nobody's challenging that so much. But the thing is, they think about the cost, the risk, the time it's going to take, the complexity, and, it can be very daunting. And I believe that if you run a very good phase 0, you can actually take that complexity out of it. You can take the cost, the time, you can get your arms around these projects, and then you will have much smoother sailing and much more success. To answer your question, I mean, we've been in touch with a number of companies who are advisors, sometimes single people who do advisory services. And with Sana, we collaborated at a number of customers and looked at how can we help each other. And so we kind of just cross paths. I think we've touched paths over our careers. I've also been doing this stuff like Sana for more than 30 years. And it's a small world. One tends to cross paths often in this world. And we basically, I think, just like you said in the beginning, Sana, we have a passion to see how can we look at the people first. It's not about the technology.
Yes.
Technology works. It's how do you get the people to get aligned on a vision, see the value of what they're going to do, and get their hands around this. So it's really, I like the way you put it, Sana, human first, right?
Yes.
You have a lot of nervous people at the beginning of these projects, right? And who need to answer a lot of difficult questions. And we were very impressed by what Sana was doing and try to see how can we actually help with that. And the way LeapGreat helps is a little bit on the technical side, where phase zeros are often very much conceptual and, business kind of discussions. There's not so much hands-on the system, which is normal because you're trying to get a road mapping in place. But we said, if you could actually see the system instead of just talking about it or describing it, because often everybody has a bit of a different understanding, then it might take some of the complexity, might take some of the risk out. And that's what we've really proven now in a number of times. So really excited to be with you, Sana, on these journeys.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Bob. And I truly think with what I have in the 12-week advisory phase 0 and with what LeapGreat comes in with the version 0, I truly think you and I both are ready to transform the way SAP engagements get executed. So I'm excited.
So, Sana, have there been opportunities where you worked together with Bob at customers, and how did the customers see the benefits, or have there been additional benefits to what you have done before and now doing this together with Bob?
Yes, absolutely, Olaf. Like Bob mentioned, what concept you're looking at the current processes, the current landscape, and giving out a readout on what phase 0 is and what they have. But Bob's partnership and LeapGreat partnership, we've been able to show the client what their actual data looks like in an S/4HANA system. So no longer it is a mystery. No longer it's like, oh my God, I'm going to take 2 years to really even see what my process looks like. It's now at the end of 12 weeks, not only do I have a handle on what I currently own and what is my optimization opportunity, but I'm also able to see my data, my process in a S/4HANA system through LeapGreat, the LeapGreat platform. It's a perfect marriage enough, if you want to say it that way.
So that sounds also like it will help from a system perspective to address questions customers generally have, like, should I go brownfield? Should I go greenfield? How do I deal with projects that are supporting what I will do with S/4HANA? Maybe projects at the same time conflicting what I need to plan for. So, Bob, from your perspective, how does that help to provide a version 0 to also get a good understanding and maybe the decision making for how you want to approach S/4HANA journey and the S/4HANA transformation as a customer?
Yeah, many years ago, I think this goes back to the 90s, in fact, there was a man called Michael Hammer. He was one of these futurist kind of thinkers, and he analyzed the space a lot. He was a very influential guy. And he made this study, which was very interesting. He studied companies that had to rate their ERP transformations from 1 to 10. And he was expecting like a normal Gaussian curve to come out, right? But he found very interesting, he studied thousands of companies, and it turned out to be a bimodal curve, which is a curve with two humps. It went up around 3 and came down again and was flat, and then came up around 7 again. He thought, that's fascinating. And he went back to do the study again to understand why it was that the distribution was that there was a big cluster of companies that had a terrible experience and those that had a wonderful experience. He did this for both SAP and Oracle, and he found the same results, right? So that's already one message, that it's not really so much about the software. It's really about how these projects run. And what he discovered was that there were two ways of viewing these projects. One was, you can either view it as a business exercise or you can view it as a technical exercise. And he noticed that those companies that viewed this as a technical exercise had a terrible experience with a 3. And the ones that viewed it as a business exercise were around a 6. And he found this fascinating. He made all these videos about it at the time. And in fact, in those days, there were not many videos or web, things like we have today, YouTube, but he made these films about it. And I think it goes back to what we're saying. Sorry, it's a roundabout way of answering your question, Olaf, but the real learning about that was that in the beginning, if you don't get the business and the technology people at the same, wanting the same thing and aligned on the same thing, these projects are going to have problems if you don't, and you need the buy-in from everyone. So it's really, the phase 0 to me is more about the buy-in. But the problem with buy-in is you can only buy into something if you understand it and you can understand what you're looking at. And for many business people who are not technologists, it's hard to visualize these abstract systems because they're very hard to imagine. I mean, you might see a demo of a process or something, but it's hard to, even for us who've been in the business for so long, it's hard to visualize what these systems actually do. They're very complex animals, right? It's SAP S/4HANA, very complex beast. And if you can make it so that the company can see that it's actually not that complex, it can drive. It's like if I show you a car, right? If I want to impress you with my car, what I do is I don't open the hood and start explaining the engine to you. What I do is I take you for a drive, right? You don't need to understand everything that's going on in an engine to enjoy a car, right? And car's performance. And I think this is what it's about, is in the beginning, how do you get the business and the technologists to all be rallied around the same thing and be able to test drive their future, right? And I think when you insert that into the phase 0, like what Sana is doing, and that's what our experience has been with customers, then suddenly you get a completely different dialogue happening. It's not just about cost and it's not just about the risk and stuff. It suddenly becomes about what value can we get from this? How do we leverage this to the most, And so I think that's why this phase 0, or whatever you want to call it, right? This pre-study or pre-assessment, I think phase 0 is a great name for it. If we can insert a version 0 of your future, it's not going to be completely correct. It's just going to be an example of your future, right? But we try to get as close as we can to the reality of your business. Then you get this alignment in the company that makes a very, very, very powerful momentum for the project. And if you start the projects on that, those are the ones that run the smoothest. Sorry, long monologue.
So let's take this one step further. A lot of customers are kind of pushed to go for S/4HANA and get off ECC. And the mindset is we have to do this. But Sana, in this phase 0, how much possibility is to take this as a point of view? This is an opportunity for companies even to change the way they do business, maybe even implement innovation. I mean, AI is all over the place. Is it something you have the chance to embed in a phase 0 discussion and explain and create the mindsets on customer side that this is actually a huge opportunity for them to go a huge step forward?
Absolutely. Olaf, I think we are in a very amazing time of our lives. And both Bob and I have actually chatted about this. We are at such a beautiful time of our lives where the next 10 years is just going to be magical. We're at the cusp of truly embarking on change. And think about this, right? you not only have the opportunity to move from an older system or an older version of SAP to a newer version, but you now have the opportunity to create amazing change. And many of us, just like myself, Bob, we are almost at the tail end of our careers. If you think about that, right? We are in our 50s, 55s, and we will be retiring in the next 10 years. So guess what? We're not only leaving a legacy behind us with all this innovation and things that we're bringing to the table, but we're setting up the next in line for success. So to answer the question that you have, Olaf, is yeah, a phase zero with version zero truly embarks on that journey by showing a client what is possible. So while there is a lot of noise with people asking, hey, what do we do? How do I move to S4? This specific advisory gives them that opportunity. And it's not spread over 9 months or 12 months or 1 year to get the answers. It's spread over 3 months, 12 weeks, where you have the aha moment right on the third week and say, oh my God, I really know what my custom code looks like. And now I know what to do with it. So please, everyone, ask questions, if there's anything that whatever we're saying is not making sense or it's kind of going over your heads. But this is truly a dream that I saw, which I think is an amazing way to work with clients. And with Bob's help to show the S4 system at the end of 12 weeks, I think that's a game changer.
So change for many people also means risk because changing into a world they don't know, getting out of their comfort zone. In which way can you advise customers that change is not really a risk or how to manage the risk?
Sure. So I'll go first and then I give it a hand off to Bob. Change is inevitable. Change is the only constant. And if you're thinking you don't want to change and you want to keep doing the same things, guess what? It's going to cost you more time, more money, and more frustration. The faster you get on the board saying, hey, I have to make the change, the easier it's going to be for you. Bob?
Yeah, I think the way you started what you were saying, Sana, about the next 10 years being very exciting, completely see that as well. I mean, we're living in a time of tremendous change when you look at what AI is bringing. If you look at all the things at
Right.
Sapphire this week, down online, if you look at all of the, what's happening with automation, there's so many things that are happening. And ERP is right at the core and center of a company's business. And you don't upgrade ERP systems every few years. This is kind of like once in a decade. And it's usually in a career. If you're working in a company, it's not, you only experience this once or twice, right, Jack?
Right.
These are tremendous opportunities, these projects. And the thing that's amazing is we're going to see more of these transformations in the next few years than we've seen in all of the decades, because just if you do the maths, right, the time is squeezing and you're going to have to move like tens of thousands of customers over. So there's going to be huge activity. And at the same time, you have the need for, to get back to your question, Olaf, about the risk. Everybody's looking at this and thinking, how do I remove the risk of this? How do I remove the cost, the time, the complexity, right? How do I get my arms around this? I've unfortunately seen people, lose their positions because of these projects going wrong. And it's not just one, I've seen many of them. Because if you get these projects wrong, they are pretty significant for the company, right? And there's a lot of literature about this out in the internet. And we've seen hugely successful projects in our careers, and we've seen big failures in our careers. And I think when you look at them, there's no easy way to explain why one was very successful and why one was a failure. If we look at it, it all goes back in my mind somehow to the way that the project was staged, the way was there buy-in from top management? Was there buy-in from the business? Was there alignment between IT and the business? Those are often the key things, right? And then there's also just like everybody has different expectations of what will be the outcome. If you can align those expectations and get everybody together, and then we believe now with technology that we've also brought, if you can let the customer see and feel and drive the future in the beginning, just like when you go to your car dealership, what does the car dealer, if you're looking for a new car, they don't take you into a conference room and only tell you about the future of driving and ask you to specify your car. They actually take you and give you a set of keys and tell you to go test the thing. And when you come back, you are very educated because you come back and say, hey, I like this car, but I want these 5 things different. I want a different color. I want different music system, different whatever. And and the reason they can give you that list, the customer can give, or that I can give the dealer the list, is because now I'm suddenly educated. For me, they've taken the complexity away. I went for a test drive. I checked it. I saw myself in that car. I tested it with my family. And this is the kind of experience Sana and I are trying to give to our customers in this phase 0, where we say there's a lot to get your arms around, but if you look at it in a structured way and you can actually see it in the system, and we've developed tools to kind of guide you through the system, um, then you can suddenly say, hey, actually, I can understand that. And then I can start to have a conversation with my peer about what that is.
Kind of pick up some of the thoughts you just shared with us. So you mentioned expectation. You mentioned different roles being involved. You have the IT side, you have the business user, you have management. So there has been a question from the audience. If you could elaborate a little bit more, that goes to you. How can we help to align the different roles in the phase 0 to come together and work against the same goal here? So that would be nice to dive into this a little bit more.
Sure, Olaf, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for the good question. It's all about people at the end of the day. That's exactly what Bob and I are saying. In a phase 0 with version 0 exercise, you are absolutely aligning every single business leader with the IT counterparts. So what we're saying is it's not just a technology project. This is a business project. This is transformation at its core, and the core comes in only with people. So the way people get aligned is from day one, from the day we actually start talking to a client, which is a discovery phase. That is when people start to come in. They will be with us through the end of the project, which is the end of 12 weeks. So that's exactly what aligning with people means.
Perfect.
I think the key also to answering that question is to ask people in all levels of the business and all sides of the business what their expectations are of this project. If you ask that right in the beginning, a lot of truth comes out of that, or a lot of learning come out of that, because you very quickly notice that there are different expectations, very different. And I think it's, without showing anybody a demo, just ask, what are the expectations first? That's a technique we've often used, where you bring that on and then you try to summarize it, and it brings up a discussion, which is then very interesting. The next step is really to look at what are the, I would call it fears. It's a bit of a negative word, but what are the concerns about this journey we're about to go on? And then that's another list, right? And if you make everybody kind of agree on kind of where that is, where do they see the risks, where do they see, and then it's, I always say the soft stuff is the hard stuff, right? It's really getting that stuff onto the table. It's not about technology, bringing that out first and then helping them to plan a journey. It's like when you build a building, right? When you build a building, the first thing you do is buy the equipment, open the construction site, and then start discussing. But the truth is, often these projects are set up like that. You get all the technology, you get all the people who work, and then you start to, without a phase 0, you just start building. You need to discuss very clearly beforehand, what do you want this building to look like? What is it supposed to do? What do you want it to do? What does success look like? And that's one way we can get that. Sorry, I interrupted you, Olaf.
Yeah, I think we're coming at the end of our session today. So I would like to give each of you quick time to go through what are the 3 most important elements of phase 0 and version 0. Sana, do you want to start first?
Sure. The 3 most important elements of phase 0 with version 0, obviously, people, the process, and the ease to make things happen.
Well,
yeah, I think the 3 most important is, firstly, make sure you do a phase 0, whatever you call it, make sure you do it, right? Because a lot of times, I would say in the majority of times, we don't even see that notion. These things just start moving, right? Depending on the size of the company, right? The second thing I would just underline again, what Sana said, is it's about people. It's not about technology. It's about the people, getting everybody on to feel comfortable, to have a similar vision, and so on. And thirdly, I think try to see there's new technologies available today, like what we do as well. So is try to find a way to not only visualize, but test drive your future before you go off on this journey, today there's a lot more possible than just looking at a demo or a model company or something. There's ways you can actually look at how we can do that. And this is where we really try to enhance this. This is where we see our contribution from LeapGreat to the kind of things that Sana is doing and others, where we try to find and help the customer to really experience the future before they embark onto this journey.
Thank you very much, both of you, for your insights. And I see the audience is very active asking questions. We are at the end of our session, but please stay tuned. We will have follow-up conversations in June. We will have our next webinar and we will deeper dive into the topic. We will take those questions like SaaS solutions, how the relevance is to this. In July, we will go into showing you first examples of clients in phase 0, version 0. So this session will also be available and posted later today for all of you who wants to share it or who wants to review again some of the thoughts exchanged today. So let me close with a big thank you to the audience and of course to our fantastic panelists.
Could I just make one last comment, Olaf? Thank you for
Go
all
ahead.
the questions to everyone. Your questions are important because what we do, and we work with Nitro Marketing on this, a company that puts these things together, doing a great job. And we take a lot of that and we convert them sometimes into like just a quick blog or something like that. So stay tuned to this channel. We will get to your questions if we didn't manage to touch on all of that. They're very important to us. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Olaf, thank you for the opportunity. And Bob, as always, a pleasure. Excited to what's ahead for all of us. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Sana.